my dude. Gorgeous. Just gorgeous.
Whoo! I definitely celebrated extremely hard on that one. Boy, did we need those 2 points, and boy, did that feel like vindication for that god-awful penalty call in overtime.
Okay, so that was like the first question I was going to ask you, because you're a former ref. Because the rule, I think, has changed, but if you get the puck first, then it's not supposed to be a penalty, or did they change that?
I mean, that, even if, like, that was not a penalty call in an overtime. Like, especially after you let the slashed stick out of the hands go late in the third, when it's like Canucks could have had a power play to end the game and then going into overtime. But instead, O'Connor busts his ass back, gets puck first. Fiala's already overcommitted to the lean. Like, O'Connor's stick had no effect on Fiala falling. Fiala's own momentum did that. Like, that, as a referee, you cannot make that call. But of course, it's Wes McCauley, and Wes McCauley has to be the show. I mean, look at the freaking way he skated around the back of the net to make that call. He was so excited to make that penalty call, it made me sick. He disgusts me. Just every time he's on the mic. Just a disgusting human. He is so egotistical, I can't stand it. I can't stand people like that are more about themselves than what is the bigger picture.
Dustin's adrenaline is pumping. Katie says 2 rooms away, and I still made my ears hurt.
It's been an intense night for me. I've just been up here.
All these questions I'm asking, I'm getting you all hot and bothered here.
Oh, it's just the high from that win. Like, we needed that. We needed those 2 points. And then just watching the Talk It Hockey collapse in the third again and giving away the 2-0 lead. Like, my adrenaline was already up because it was frustrating, because we get away from the game plan. And instead of continuing to push, we start icing the puck and dumping and chasing instead of carrying the puck in and trying to push the offense, which was working for us for the first 2 periods just fine. And then we change the game plan, sit back, and allow LA back into the game. There was no reason to give LA a point in this game, but we did it to ourselves. And then in overtime, thank God, Connor Garland decided to break out of his slump tonight, because, boy, we needed those 2 points. Whew.
So as of right now, the Canucks sit in the last wild card spot. They played 1 more game than Calgary, so we need a Calgary loss, but they are back on the inside looking out for the time being. Is it going to be like this for the rest of the season? You think it's just going to be Calgary and Vancouver hacking out for that last wild card spot?
Every game's a must win right now. Like, you can maybe lose one here or there, but you can't go on a streak. You cannot go on a losing streak. You have to play at worst 500 hockey. And you have to capitalize when you can. Like, this team tonight is a team you're chasing in your division standings. Ignore the wild card. You can't, when you're up 2-0 with 11 minutes left in the game, you cannot let a team who you're chasing in the standings back into the game. You just can't do that. Like, you have 7 defensemen in the lineup. You got to keep to your game plan and drive the offense. And it's just something that I've been harping on all season, is like, I don't have this love in with Tocchet like everyone else seems to have. Like, if Tocchet was such a great coach, he'd have a 5-year extension already. Like, clearly the management isn't all goo-goo-eyed over a Jack Adams trophy as much as the fans are. Like, they are also seeing what we see. Like, it's not winning hockey right now. Like, it's boring to watch. It doesn't sell tickets. Fans are getting indifferent to it. Like, tonight, I had a buddy message me. He's like, win or lose tonight, I can't watch this team anymore. It's just boring.
4 shots in the third period versus 11 by LA, right?
Yeah, like, it's just... oh. Just allowed them right back in that game.
So
no
do you
reason
want to know how
for
they
it.
did on keeping Quinn Hughes' time down? He was the second highest defenseman on the team.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, I mean, that
He
ends
still
up
played
being the
over
second
20
highest
minutes.
on the whole team because he played just under 22 minutes. And then, Phil Hronek coming in with 26 minutes.
Yeah.
And then DPD, EPD, EP25 is the low minute man with 10-10.
Yeah, which in a game like this, understandable. You got to protect the rookie a bit, especially when the thirds started to go the way it went. You knew the D was going to get shortened up into 6 guys, and then the bench got shortened up a little bit as well. So, be interesting to see who they trot out there tomorrow against Anaheim. But yeah,
He has Suter coming in with 60% on the faceoff dot. Hedel coming in with 50%. Those are your main centers. Pedersen coming in at 42%, which he's got to be better at that. Is that why we're still talking about maybe moving him to a wing if we can get another center? Or
yes.
would we be too thin down the middle if we move him to the wing?
No, if we can get a bona fide top 2 center, then I'd be perfectly comfortable moving him to the wing. And having Hedel as a second line center or even playing with PD, and seeing what they could generate together with the speed. It would force PD to move his feet.
Yeah.
But again, we're already seeing Hedel be a little bit neutralized unless he's got a breakaway. When he's carrying the puck in, we're seeing an awful lot of turn back and give it back to the defenseman, and then they'll try and get the shot through and then drive the net and hope for a rebound if they actually get the shot through.
All three members,
but then they don't get the shot through.
All three members who were on the ice got a point on the play. So Hedel carrying it into the zone, which was great. Back to Hughes, and then over to Garland. So Hughes with his 46th assists of the season, and then that means Hedel had 2 assists in the night. So everyone's like, "Oh, JT Miller is the best player on the on the Rangers right now," but it looks like Hedel is faring quite well with the Canucks right now.
Yep. No, I mean, a really good game out of Hedel. Good offense. Good to get 2 passes through and get some assists. Actually, his assist on the power play was really nice to find Garland wide open in front there. Again, we can't be letting teams back in like that though. A good job to kind of tighten up the face-offs a bit and get them closer to 50-50. Obviously, it's our power play benefited from having Hughes back. You see it right away. Hits pretty even.
Yeah, it came in. Canucks actually ended up taking it just by 1, right? 28-27. So it was good to see. Like we said, in the first period, it was already, I think it was 9-10 or something like that. So the hitting didn't stop. And a lot of the time you will see kind of maybe it taper off as the game goes on. It did not taper off at all. Block shots for the Canucks. They ended up blocking 17 shots. So they had 17 shots and they blocked 17 shots. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it only took 1 in overtime.
Sure. Yep. That's all they needed.
We've come to the part of the show where we get Dustin to predict the 3 stars as selected by the LA Kings broadcast team.
It's so hard when it's away. Because, like, Connor Garland should be the first star.
He is.
Okay, thank goodness.
2 goals.
And then they probably gave the other 2 to Warren Fogle and Adrian Kempe.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so American. Yeah. It's like, oh, he scored. He's a star. Canucks actually, like, honestly, the first 2 periods, despite only generating 6 shots in those 2 periods, they were playing hockey the right way. They were pushing LA into their end, and they were waiting for LA to make mistakes. And then in the third, they completely flipped their game plan, and then LA just took advantage of our mistakes.
I got Stolaz 14 in the chat here asking, how did the Canucks almost blow that lead?
Just exactly what I'm talking about. When instead of driving the play and trying to keep control of puck possession, they got into the dump and chase and sit back. Only 1 guy chasing and 4 guys sitting back. And if that 1 guy gets the puck, and then they would start moving in, but the 1 guy wasn't getting the puck, and so LA was turning it back and using their speed to push us back. and generating far more shots than we wanted to give them in the third period. And it led to them being able to get back into the game and almost stealing the win there.
Calvin 99 Charlie says 2 words, Susie and Myers, which it's funny because I feel like Susie was playing really, really well. And then on the tip goal, he just completely lost his man.
Yep. And that comes with kind of being in and out of the lineup. And honestly, he might be being asked to waive his no trade clause here soon. So that might be a distraction for him as well. He knows the Canucks are pretty deep on the blue line. Going into tomorrow, I would expect us to see a AHL transaction and a forward come up, and either DPD or Mancini going down just because Hughes is back in the lineup now. And when you look at the scratches tonight, we need some forward help. So I'd really like to see maybe Lecker-Mackey coming up tomorrow and playing against Anaheim. That'd be nice.
Well, I think in Rick Tocchet's presser today, I believe essentially what he said is he's going to have a really hard time taking him out of the lineup because of how well he's been playing. But obviously, the Canucks are doing the thing where they're moving guys up and down between the NHL and the AHL. But apparently Adam Foote is absolutely in love with DPD. So that might be a reason why he does end up staying. And maybe Mancini goes back down to get all those extra minutes down in the AHL. But if we can get Lecker-Mackey up here, I will be a happy boy. Believe you me.
Me too. And if we bring him up, he needs to be in the top 6, not on the 4th line. For the love of God.
Emperor King. GG on the win, Russell. Thanks for the stream. That's nice of you, Emperor King. Very gracious of you. Enjoy the rest of your night. Oh, you're welcome for the 1 point we gave you. And then German Canuck says, "Ja, das ist gut, ja, a win." So I did. I mentioned in the Rusty and Dusty sideshow, I wanted to ask you about Boeser. I'll start off by asking you about his play tonight because I felt there was a couple moments like the one where he made the move on Kopitar and the other LA player absolutely left them behind the net, which is good to see. So there's moments in the game where I saw Boeser and he played really well. But being on the third line, it does seem like maybe the Canucks are, limiting his role a little bit. Is that the result of his play, or is that the result of him maybe being on the trading block?
I think it's a little of both. He hasn't been the player that he was last season. And, what it is kind of showing is that Brock Boeser's an $8 million winger if he has a $10 million center playing at his best. He's only as good as the players playing around him, and that's why I'm so hesitant to sign Boeser to a long-term deal that he is searching for. It's one thing to have one good year. Like, everyone's on PD for getting that big contract, but he had 3 really good seasons in a row leading up to his downfall last year when the injury occurred, and his downfall into the playoffs and then into this season. So, like, PD earned his contract. Like, don't get me wrong, he's struggling to live up to it, but he earned it. So that's the difference here. Like, Boeser had 1 good season, but he didn't back it up going into his contract year. And that's a big thing where it's like, okay, you want this money, but you're not showing us that you can be a game-breaking player that deserves to be paid that type of money. Like, Boeser doesn't get the puck on his stick. And when I see Boeser get the puck on his stick, I don't see him carrying it down, going end-to-end, beating a guy one-on-one, and finding the back of the net. For me, Boeser is a guy that finds the right areas, and someone else is going to get the puck to him.
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't have that guy, he's pretty ineffective when it comes to being an NHL forward. And so with him, by the sounds of it, not budging on that 8-year term, you have to put the emotions aside and realize that this is business at this time, and he's going to have to be moved for assets at the deadline. You have to bring in someone either younger or someone that has a bit of term left that can fill a bit of that Boeser role. Boeser's value is still relatively high because he is going into free agency, and he is still like a good goal scorer. And on the right team, he could probably be quite a prolific goal scorer. I just don't think that the direction that Vancouver is going, that in 5 or 6 years, we're going to be seeing a Boeser that can even get 20 goals on the board. You know what I mean? Like it's really hard to see that in his future when I feel like he's pretty much already peaked. It's a tough one because my heart obviously wants to keep him.
Is there a dollar amount that, because I mean, obviously we don't like the term of 8 years, but is there a dollar amount at 8 years that would be agreeable for the Canucks to sign him at? Like, what would that have to be?
See, that's the hardest thing is like, I don't mind giving him $8 million for 5 years. Like with maybe like, the last year is not protected at all and we can move him if we need to. I'd be okay with that because in 4 or 5 years, $8 million on a cap that is projected to continually go up isn't going to feel like that much pressure. And that's the same thing with like everyone's hyper focused on PD's $11.6 million. Let's just say in 3 years, PD is scoring 120 points in a season for that $11.6 million. And we're going into free agency that year. And so now we have 5 more years of PD at $11.6 million. And the free agents in 3 years that are producing 100 to 120 points, I guarantee you are going to be signing for $15 to $20 million per season. PD's contract is a steal in 3 years if he can find even 90, even 80% of the form that he had last year. So this is why I'm so hesitant to move him and give up. And I just try to explain to fans, like, I get the frustration. I'm frustrated too. He needs to be better, but we need to be realistic and understand as hockey fans that some things take time and they don't happen overnight. And sometimes there's going to be bad seasons. We got spoiled for too long with the Canucks kind of always getting into the playoffs or being like a contending team, being real close. And then we got some bad years. And this year kind of feels like one of those weird in-between years where last year we overperformed and we got a taste of something so good. And we just expect that to be what we should get. But we've battled injuries all season, like to our top players. Our core just kind of fell apart. And like there's so many outside factors to this season above and beyond the struggles of Pettersson and his offensive issues. Like we just need to get through this trade deadline, push as hard as we can to the playoffs. And if we make it, great, see what we can do and move on to free agency with a lot of the cap space that we've freed up by moving Miller and maybe moving Boeser and who knows who's available on July 1st. But there are signs of things going in the right direction. Like tonight, PD did make a couple of hard drives to the middle. He tried to go through the defenseman on the power play on that one right before Garland got the power play goal. Like the shift right before the goal, he was trying to look like the PD of old. Like he is trying to get there. So I feel like he can, and now that Hughes is back, I think that's gonna help him as well.
Well, I think I said to you before the break, I feel like the Canucks are going to be a really good team down the stretch, and then they come out and lay those couple stingers, which obviously it isn't the same when you don't have Quinn Hughes in the lineup, obviously. But Quinn Hughes back, even tonight, he didn't look quite like himself, but he definitely looks like he's on his way there. And like we've talked about before, when everyone has 5 sets of eyes on Quinn Hughes, then that's when Pettersson can find a soft spot, Boeser can find a soft spot. Some of these guys that have been struggling to score are able to get to a spot where then Quinn Hughes is going to make some no-look pass over to them, and they're going to have a good chance. But it's going to, once again, it feels like every 10 games or so, we have to have a full reset on this roster because another major piece has gone out. So this is the first time where we have access to all of our defensemen And we don't really have anyone out on forward that is really hurting us either. Like we have a healthy lineup, knock on wood, moving forward. So we always talk about getting hot at the right time. Is this the Canucks' opportunity to start putting things together and getting hot moving into the playoffs?
Absolutely. You look around the league and other teams are falling apart. You have Matthew Tkachuk, who might miss the bulk of the regular season with a groin injury. You have Brady Tkachuk over in Ottawa, who's a question mark ever since the Four Nations. You look at Edmonton, who's lost 4 in a row since coming out of the Four Nations and getting blown out a bit too. Like the Canucks games have been close at least. Like, yeah, we're losing and we're giving up some points here, but there's some really good teams that are struggling as well. We get hyper focused in Canuckland on our team and only our team, but there's lots of other teams that go through it just as much as we do. So there are things I liked about this game, but obviously I haven't liked plenty about Tocchet's structure all season. I think it's a big cause of the lack of shots and lack of offense. And I really hope that I don't know what they're waiting for when it comes to firing him or moving on, because they clearly haven't extended him, which makes me think that they're not really interested, or it's going to depend on how far he can get them in the playoffs. Like, he preaches that this is how you win once you get to the playoffs. So if we can get there, then maybe that'll be his chance to prove it. But boy, you got to be able to shut it down in the playoffs too, and you can't be having teams come back into games like this. So there's still work to do in that front.
I think that's the Canucks logic coming out, where it's like the Canucks are so good defensively, and then all of a sudden they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so bizarre, right? Because it's like they're being told something on the bench to like change up some little thing. It's like a switch flips, and then all of a sudden they just start icing the puck, and they're not looking for an outlet pass. They're trying to dump and chase. Like, it's just like it's like watching 2 different hockey games
Yeah, Jekyll and Hyde, like hardcore Jekyll and Hyde.
all year.
It's been a roller coaster ride.
Yep.
So the Canucks end up taking the season series against LA, so that could come into play coming into the playoff drive. Obviously, LA is a bit higher in the standings than the Canucks are. But like I said, as of right now, the Canucks sit in that last wild card spot with 63 points. The problem is LA's only played 54 games, whereas the Canucks have played 57 games. So that's a blessing and a curse. That means LA has to play even more hockey than anyone else, because I think LA's played the least amount of games in the whole league, so they are not going to have much rest. So that could be advantage Canucks, but that could also get the LA Kings into the groove. However, that doesn't mean the Canucks still can't catch them for that third spot in the division. Do you think the Canucks can get that high, or are we just right now hoping they make it into a wild card spot?
I think they could chase down LA. I could see LA losing a few here or there to some high-powered teams. They do play that structured defense, but they have been known to kind of go to sleep from night to night. Also, any team's one injury away from going on a slump, right? So, if they lose a Kempe or a Kopitar for any extended period of time, or even for 2 weeks, they could struggle immensely. So, they rely heavily on that top line to generate them points.
Canucks slapped Anaheim around a little bit last time they played. It was a 5-1 drubbing. Anaheim's gotten a lot better since then. What are you expecting from the Canucks versus the Ducks tomorrow night?
Hopefully, a more offensive attack. Like I said, I'd love to see them put out an emergency call here to get Lecker Mackey up to the team. That way you have a little more speed up front and someone who wants to shoot the puck a little more. And that way, you get to come home after that one. Or no, I guess they got to stop in Seattle. So, I mean, they could come home and then go back down to Seattle. I'm not sure what the plan actually is. But they'll be fine to run 6 defense tomorrow, and hopefully they can get a better rotation going with the forwards.
I think what it comes down to for me with the Ducks is that the Ducks are not as solid defensively as the Kings are, but the Canucks are still as solid defensively as the Kings probably are. So it's looking like if defense wins championships, the Canucks should be able to handle the Ducks tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, if they play like they played tonight, defensively, the first 2 periods, the Ducks won't really have a chance. They don't have the ability to break through that like other teams do. But they're also young and fast, and they have a really young, talented goalie in that Dostal, so he can steal a game for them any given night. He's made some 40 save games for them already in his young career.
Anything you want to say to chat before I let you go?
Thank you as always for dropping by. Appreciate the comments and the questions, and I look forward to seeing everyone again tomorrow night. Hopefully we can get a clean 2 points tomorrow night and maybe go on a bit of a streak here and start clawing our way better into that playoff picture.
Agreed. Enjoy the rest of your night, brother.
You as well, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Nothing is perfect.